Today I'm asking, how can autistic people ask for special accommodations when we're not entirely sure what it is that we actually need? So this video won't be super edited, or at least I'm planning for it not to be super edited. So there might be a bit of traffic noise in the background here and there. So apologies for that. Hopefully it won't be too loud, but basically I'm not feeling very well, and it is actually related to the title in today's video. And basically I am in the process of waiting for an operation. Have got a date and it's not too far into the future now, but last week I had to go for a pre-op assessment at the local hospital. And a pre-op involves a series of checks really, just to make sure that you're fit enough to have an operation. So they take your blood pressure and they'll take some bloods, etc. So that's what went on. And so I got to my appointments and the nurse that I saw was asking various questions, as they would do. And I noticed that her tone was really quite off with me in the earlier part of the appointment. So I was just thinking, well, I don't know what this is about. And I remember at one point telling her that I was autistic because it felt relevant. You know, I'm going through this process that I'm finding really stressful. So my behaviour to her may be a bit odd. So I was telling her I was autistic just to make things a bit clearer, both for her and hopefully for me. And I did note actually at that point her tone became a lot kinder, which was really nice. So I thought, well, this is going really well. Also, I thought, so a little while into the appointments, she said to me, right, we're going to take some bloods now. And I knew that was going to happen. It was in my appointment letter. And I think I'm just going to give a little alert here that if you are a bit funny about talking about, taking bloods and stuff, I'd recommend perhaps you skip ahead, and maybe I'll put in some chapters here, so you know where to go to. So if you are going to skip forward, I'll see you shortly. And I sometimes have issues with bloods being taken because I've got very small veins. So she asked me, do you struggle, in terms of giving blood? And I said, occasionally I do, but I've had a big, cup of tea this morning, so hopefully it will be fine. And she tried to take some bloods, and she couldn't get any out of one arm. So she tried the other arm, and again, she couldn't get any blood out. So she said, I'm going to get my colleague who's really good at taking blood. So she then came in and she tried to take some blood and she couldn't do it. So they then said to me, we can try taking some blood from a different point, so it's going to be on your hands. And I thought, well, I've had a cannula in my hands before for hospital treatment, so I'm sure that'll be fine. And it was really, really painful. And it was really horrible, I have to say. And they couldn't get any blood out, so in practice it was a bit of a waste of time really. So they then said that they'd need to get the anaesthetist to come and take some bloods, and he did. He arrived maybe 5 or 10 minutes later, and he had a ultrasound machine with him, I think, so he could actually look into my arm and find where there was a decent vein to take some bloods. And that happened. It was a really scary looking needle, but it was fine. He was able to get some blood. So finally it was over, although it was really, really stressful. So I'm going to put in another chapter here, so those that have skipped ahead can join the conversation again. So all you need to know in catching up is that they were able to take some blood from me eventually, but the process caused me to be really lightheaded to the point where I felt really, really faint. And I remember being sat in the chair, and I said to the nurse, I feel really faint. So I was trying to get up to go and lie on the bed next to the chair, but I think the nurse misinterpreted this as me actually fainting. So she hit my chest and which knocked me back in the chair. And I wasn't prepared for it, but I, handled it fine. I just thought, wow, okay, that was a bit surprising. So eventually I laid down on the bed, and eventually the lightheadedness kind of went. But I have to say I found all of this unbelievably stressful. I was able to cope with it all at the time, but it was so difficult for a number of reasons actually. Firstly, there was just endless small talk going on, and when you're already feeling really stressed out, it's like impossible, isn't it? I really struggle with small talk anyway, but when you're going through a really horrible process, the last thing you want to hear is, so what do you do for a living? Or are we keeping you from anything interesting today? And I was giving some really kind of short, I guess, terse answers, because I just thought, why am I being bombarded with these needless questions? I've already explained that I'm autistic, and this is really stressful. Why don't they know that small talk is really stressful for autistic people? Also, by this point, I was surrounded by 3 people, and it just made me feel really claustrophobic. It was just so difficult, and I just kept willing the appointment to end, and it just seemed to go on forever. And also, during this whole process, they kept saying to me that because I was lightheaded and I had low blood pressure, which is normal for me, I have POTS, they kept saying, you need to go to the cafe and have a sweet tea and some biscuits after this appointment. And I just thought, I've got MCAS. I'm allergic to everything you're talking about here. And even if I wasn't, so many autistic people have food sensitivities. Some of us have ARFID. We're just not able to eat normal foods. This is really inappropriate advice. I'm not going to be able to do what you want me to do. And of course, I didn't say any of this to anybody, because I was just really trying to be as quiet as I could, because I just wanted this whole thing over. And I just basically nod whenever they'd say that, you've got to go to the cafe after this appointment. And I just was completely lost. It felt like a nightmare. And since this appointment, which was over a week ago, I've been feeling really ill. Basically, I've had loads of chronic pain. I get chronic pain a lot anyway through MCAS, but it's been really unmanageable. I've had really bad TMJ, so it's felt like I've almost had kind of lockjaw at times. It's been so painful, and I've had a migraine for the last few days, and I've only ever had 3 migraines in my whole life. It's not something that I have as a matter of course, really. So for me, it just really evidences how stressed out I've been about the whole process. And also, I've got the operation next week, which is really, it's really preying on my mind, because I'm really worried about the kind of care that I'm going to get, and how I'm going to be able to cope with it. And I don't doubt I'm going to be ill for a while afterwards. I've been mentally preparing for this anyway because of MCAS. I react to so much stuff. I am anticipating being ill afterwards. I hope I'm not, but I'm trying to prepare myself should that be the case, because it is quite likely. And it's nerve-wracking, isn't it? And I imagine a lot of autistic people will be able to relate to this. I think our experience of healthcare can be, quite difficult. So it makes us want to avoid seeing doctors or going for hospital treatment, because we know it's going to be really challenging in very many ways. And we often hear about special accommodations for autistic people, don't we? And that we should always ask for them. But how can we ask for them if we don't know what it is that we need? Because I've been really thinking about last week's appointments at the pre-op, and I don't even know how I could have made that better for myself. I told them that I was autistic, but they needed to get blood from me, and it was a very difficult process. And I had a chat with Ian about it, my partner, and he said, would it have helped had I been there with you? And I don't think it would have, because I think it would just have been another person in the room, and I was already feeling kind of claustrophobic and overwhelmed. And I don't think Ian would have known what to ask for either, really. So I think he would have been as confused as me. And I just think overall, if you've told a healthcare professional that you're autistic, surely they should know the difficulties that we have. I'm just flummoxed, really. I don't know what I could have done to make that better for myself, and to lessen the chance of me to go into, like, basically an internal meltdown over the last week, because I've just been replaying it over and over in my head because it was just so horrible. And I think in terms of autistic accommodations in the workplace or in an education environment, they tend to be a lot more straightforward, don't they? You can ask for maybe sensory breaks. Perhaps you'd want to work in a quiet zone. In the workplace, you might be able to figure out some way of hybrid working or working from home, and various other things. I think the process there is a lot more straightforward, but I think in healthcare, unless you're dealing with somebody who is also perhaps autistic or maybe neurodivergent, I think it's really difficult, isn't it? And I'm finding that I'm really worrying about next week's appointments, and I've got to go for another pre-op next week about a different issue, and I'm just finding the whole process really overwhelming. And I think that's also why I wanted to do a video today, because I think it's going to be a bit kind of sporadic in terms of me making videos probably over the next few weeks. So I just wanted to get at least one up before I go in for the op. But I'm just at a point where I don't know what it is that I should be asking for. So I'd love to know if you've been able to figure out systems in terms of perhaps hospital care, or certainly going for hospital appointments. Any tips or tricks that you've learned along the way in order to make the experience more comfortable for yourself, really. I appreciate there's always going to be elements of stress involved in a process like this, because autistic accommodations just aren't clear, are they? So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at. I'd love to know if you've been through a similar experience, and perhaps what you've learned from it, so you've been able to better protect yourself, really, in future appointments. So I think that's going to be it for today. Apologies if it's just been, a ramble, really, but I wanted to get a video up for this Friday because I don't really know when I'm going to be able to upload another video. Hopefully not too long into the future, because I really enjoy making videos. I really love being and feeling creative. So I'll be getting back into it as soon as I can. So thank you for watching, and any tips and tricks for autistic accommodations in healthcare settings would be really appreciated down below in comments. And yeah, give it a like if you got this far, and I'll see you again soon.